And welcome to today's service. We welcome all our family and our friends to today's service. We are glad for you to be here with us today. For today is the day that the Lord has made, and let us rejoice and be glad in it. We hope that you are blessed as you listen to the word of God being ministered to you through song and through the speakers for today. Lord, I ask that you will continue to bless each and every one of us. Have a blessed day, and please stand if you are able in your home and join us in singing our Black National Anthem, Lift Every Voice and Sing.
Star is fast. God of our Again, we thank and praise God for another chance of lifting up his name in song. Another Sunday to come here as we close out our Black History Month. God has been gracious unto us. He has blessed us. And we are standing in the shoes of those who have gone on, and some that are still among us and in the land of living. And a few of the people that we must talk about this morning that we have been richly blessed by over the 55 years that I've served as part of this church family. A lady that was named Josephine Singleton. Another lady, Niecy White. And Sister Northica Stone. Along with Alma Jean Watts, many others, Mrs. Hathaway, Mrs. Boyd and her sister, Tracy with the young people, forgive me for forgetting, but Ann Brown with the young adult choir, and as I said, Tracy with the kids, James Hamilton with the young people, Reverend Ronald Beauchamp with the young people at one time. And if I'm missing anyone, I still again thank God for you. For you have been a blessing to all of us. We're still here trying to carry on. But the Lord blessed us that he brought back as we tried to go down memory lane and remembering those members who have gone on before and some of their material. He has blessed us with a young man who was born and raised here in the Maywood area and in the Second Baptist Church. One of the former and the organizer and director of Second Baptist First and Only Orchestra. Young man's name is Wendell, as his brother's name. Y'all got to forgive me, but his name is Maxwell. I'm hoping Wendell is listening that he can call in to us today. Let us know that we are thinking about him too. Young man spent more than 35 years of teaching music in the Indiana area. And he come home to be with his church family and especially to be with his dad. And we've drafted him this morning to come and just continue to bless us as he's joined us in our music department. He will be conducting the 3 selections as we go down memory lane of some of our members. Lift every voice and sing, let Mount Zion rejoice and magnify the Lord. All you senior members out there and those who had a chance to sing with the gospel and sanctuary choir, today is your day to just join in and sing along with us. At this time, our own and only Maxwell Macklin. Let's give him a hand.
Lift up your heads, O ye gates, and be lifted up.
Or those of us that are singing this morning, as you know, we can't have the full choir, but we thank God for those that is here, being able to help us to go down memory lane in just a medley of songs. We've not been able to sing the whole song. One of these days, real soon, you're going to come back in this sanctuary and we will be able to go forth and lifting up the Lord in song. As we continue to move on, we're going to go back down memory lane a little bit. One of the songs that have been so dear and so close to us over the years, during Mrs. Stone's time and the other musicians and directors, songs like, I'll say yes, Lord, yes. Then yes, Lord. We did an acapella number that we used to travel with the young people, leaking this whole building. Then we come back when they soothed it down through the years, we sing, I want to be more like Jesus. And we have one of her backups today that's going to do it, another member of the choir, Sandra, is going to be doing I want to be more like Jesus. And we're going to do Order My Steps and Yes, I Know Jesus. A little bit of Spirit of the Living God fall fresh on me, our own Deacon Freeline, as well as No Waste Time. Then we're going to be doing Through It All, just medleys, and one of the songs that we cannot forget this morning, The Storm is Passing Over. And if we all think about it, this time last week it was different. A month ago it was much different. But if you can testify today, the storm is passing over. And we can close out by praising God, from whom all blessings flow. I'll say yes.
I want to be more like Jesus every day.
Every hour of the day.
I I want to be more and more like Jesus every step of the way. Oh, I want to be, I want to see, I want to live, and I want to give. I want to be more and more like Jesus every day. I want to be more and more like Jesus every day. I want to be more and more like Jesus every step of the way. Oh, I want to be, I want to see, I want to live, and I want to give. I want to be more and more like Jesus every day, every hour of the day.
living God. Fall fresh on me. Savior with the light divine. Fall fresh on me. Fill me, mold me,
us through our moment where we can take the time to praise God for more than 150 years, from whom all blessings flow. We thank God for this day, and we thank God for all of you. Ask that you join in with us as we do this selection, Praise God, from whom all blessings flow.
Good morning, Second Baptist, Maywood community, and everyone listening around the world. Your announcements for today are as follows. COVID-19 is still going on strong. Many of you have started to get your vaccinations. Many of you are waiting for your vaccination date. But in the meantime, I implore you, I beg you to please continue to wear a mask, social distance, and stay away from large crowds. This Monday, March 1st, from 9 to 11 a.m., the food produce program will be serving the public in the parking lot adjacent to Washington Boulevard. This Monday, March 1st from 9 to 11 p.m., the food produce program will be serving the public from 9 to 11 p.m. This Wednesday, March 3rd, the food pantry program will be serving the public in the parking lot adjacent to the church. Just drive through and pick up some food. Just drive through. This Wednesday, March 3rd, in the parking lot adjacent to the church from 11 to 1. On Saturday, March 6th, I am so sorry. On Saturday, March 6th, the deacons will be serving our drive-through communion from 11 to 1. The deacons will be serving our drive-through communion from 11 to 1. Please come out, get your sacrament, and drop off your tithe and offering. Sunday morning services can be streamed as you can see on sbcofmaywood.org or Second Baptist Church of Maywood on YouTube at 11 a.m. The Sunday school services times and numbers are being streamed across your screen as I speak. Second Baptist, we'd like to thank everyone for being involved in keeping our church going. You can send your tithe and offering through Zelle at churchsecondbaptist@gmail.com. Or you can drop off your tithe and offering Monday through Friday from 10 to 2. Or you can mail your tithe and offering to 436 South 13th Avenue, Maywood, Illinois, 60153. Immediately following this service, from 12:30 to 2, we will be having the Hour of Power prayer hour. From 12:30 to 2, every Sunday after service, you simply call 343-0073. If you wish to join our congregation, that's 343-0073. Or if you are just standing in the need of prayer, please call us at 343-0073. Today, the last Sunday of our celebration of Black History Month, we are pleased to have a warrior within our midst. We are pleased to have the Honorable Mayor of BELLWOOD, Andrew Harvey. And he will be speaking soon as I get out of the way. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I present to you the Honorable Mayor of BELLWOOD.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Thank you, Deacon Freeline. We appreciate you for that great introduction. I'd like to thank Second Baptist for having me here today. I am Mayor Andre Harvey of the village of BELLWOOD, and it's just a pleasure to be here before you today. I would like to take this time to thank Assistant Pastor Jeff Harris and the Second Baptist Church congregation and my good friend Oba Barrow from Senior Suites for inviting me here today to honor Black History Month. And I thank you for waiting to the last day of February to invite me here today for Black History Month. Because they always say the one that's last is the one that's got to do it the best. So I know that we're here during this Black History Month, and our slogan is going to be bringing the past to the present. And one thing I know about is the past, and I'm going to talk about my life and hopefully my legacy, my living legacy, on how I got here today and how I became the mayor of the village of BELLWOOD. But first, I want to talk about what Black history means to me. Black history is God, the creator that allowed us to be here today. Black history is the start, where we as black people started from. Black history is slavery, where we were enslaved and bonded and treated as property. Black history is bondage, tying, binding, and restraining us. Black history is shackles, the shackles that were put upon our legs and our arms to restrain us. Black history to me is the kings and queens that we are born from that make us great black people. Black people is pain, the pain of 400 years that we've endured and continue to endure every day.
Speak the truth now.
Black history is joy, the joy that we as people have overcome for so many years. Black history is happy, happy that our people have finally overcome in some instances. Black history is sad, sad to see our people continue to suffer. Black history is music, the music that keeps us going every day. And that music comes from slave songs, to church hymns, to blues, to jazz, to rhythm, to rock, and even hip hop that our black people have put together to keep us going every day. Black history is the art passed down from generation to generation, from our people to our people. Black history is the church, as we stand here today in this wonderful church where black people have gathered for years and years and years to worship, to meet, and to get things done in the black community. Black history is death. Black history signifies the black people that died before us and to better us as people. Black history is life. It signifies the better life that we have because black people that died before us. Black history is the injustice. The injustice that we've endured for years and years and years and continue to endure each day of our lives. Black history is legacy. The legacy of our families have left us to carry on our names from generation to generation. Black history is also people to me. People like Carter C. Woodson, the father of black history, who declared the second week in February as Negro History Week. Black history is Martin Luther King, the father of the Civil Rights Movement, a pastor and a revolutionary. Dr. King is best known for Civil Rights Movement, and that was through civil disobedience and nonviolence. Dr. King was assassinated at the age of 39 years old in 1968. Black history is Malcolm Little, also known as Malcolm X. Malcolm X was a gangster, a preacher, a revolutionary. He was an American Muslim who worked for civil rights and is a great, great man for the civil rights movement. He was a little bit different than Martin because he wanted to make sure and was going to make sure that we were treated fairly by any means necessary. No matter what it was, Malcolm said, if we have to fight, we're going to fight for the rights that we deserve. Black history is Fred Hampton, an American activist, a revolutionary, who happens to be from Maywood, Illinois, right here in our hometown, who actually died in 1969 at the age of 21. Grew up in Maywood, went to Proviso East High School. He was a powerful young man who brought people together. In high school, he led walkouts, protests, and exclusion of black students from the race of homecoming queen and calling on officials to hire more black teachers and administrators. Fred Hampton graduated from Proviso East, another revolutionary. And might you ask, what is a revolutionary? Because we talked about Malcolm was a revolutionary. We talked about Martin was a revolutionary. Fred Hampton was a revolutionary. A revolutionary is a change maker. someone that makes dramatic, sudden impacts on society. Black history is Harriet Tubman, who orchestrated the Underground Railroad, who, by chance, we have a stop here in the village of Maywood at Lake and First Avenue, right by the McDonald's, where I used to work when I was 15 years old. Black history is Rosa Parks, who refused to give her seat to a white man and started the Montgomery bus boycott. Black history is Emmett Till, the 14-year-old Chicago boy that was brutally lynched and beaten in Mississippi for what they say is disrespecting a white woman in her parents' store. Black history is Barack Obama, the 44th President of the United States, the first black President of the United States. Black history is Kamala Harris, the 49th Vice President of the United States, a black woman, black and Asian. Black history is Thurgood Marshall, civil rights activist, first justice to serve on the Supreme Court. Black history is Black Lives Matters, where Laquan McDonald, a Chicago boy who was shot 16 times by a Chicago police officer. Eric Garner, who was murdered in New York, choked to death for selling what they call loosies on the street, loose cigarettes. Black history is Breonna Taylor, who was gunned down in a no-knock search warrant in Louisville, Kentucky. And black history is George Floyd, who was killed in the streets of Minneapolis, Minnesota, where a white police officer kneeled on his neck for 8 minutes. Black history is Danny K. Davis, U.S. Representative for Illinois 7th Congressional District from Chicago, who's making a difference in our lives. Black history is another Maywoodian, Kimberly A. Lightfoot, right here from Maywood, Illinois Senator and the Senate Majority Leader. Black history is Emmanuel Christopher Welch, Speaker of the House of Representatives of the 7th District. He took over the Speaker's seat from Mike Madigan, and he's the 70th Speaker of the House. Black history is Karen Yarborough, Cook County Clerk, elected first black female to hold this position. There's going to be some special people that hold real deep in my heart. Black history is Harold Washington, the first black mayor of Chicago. Black history is Joe Freeland, the first African-American mayor in Maywood. And it's a pleasure to meet his son, Joe Freeland. Black history is Don Williams, the second African-American mayor in the village of Maywood. I tell you, I am built on black history. All the people that I listed and talked about before you today are true legends in black history. But I need to talk a little bit about a few other people in my life. And first in black history are 3 strong black women in my life. My grandmother, Alma Harvey, my grandmother, Hazel Lunkins, and my mother, Winnie Harvey. They are black history that have nurtured me and made me the person I am today. Black history is Willie Harvey, my grandfather, who was born in the 1900s in Mississippi, who migrated from the south to the north in search of a better life for me and my family. Black history is my father, Alvin Harvey, who instilled in me so much and taught me so much on how to be a black man. Without these men and women in my life, in my black history, there would be no Mayor Andre Harvey. I would not stand here before you today as the mayor of the village of Bellwood. To understand what I'm talking about, I got to talk to you a little bit about my journey and how I got here today. My parents moved to Bellwood in 1969. My father actually was from the west side, like many of us come from the west side, came to BELLWOOD to move some furniture for a friend and noticed a house that was set for sale on the corner of 22nd and Randolph. My father took a look at it. He liked it. He went back and talked to my mom. They came out and looked at it together, and they bought the house, and that's how I got to the village of BELLWOOD in 1969. We were the first black family on the block at 22nd and Randolph. And you have to understand it was a culture shock to me because there was no other white people on the block from the west side of Chicago. And in 1969 was a year after the assassination of Martin Luther King. So the Chicago riots were just being over. And the Chicago riots was in part because Martin Luther King was assassinated. And if you look at the history of the Chicago riots where we as black people, we were so angry, we started fires, we tore down buildings, and if you go to Chicago on the south side and the west side today, those vacant lots are still there today. So moving to BELLWOOD was a culture shock because white people didn't want black people to move to BELLWOOD at that time. So as a child, I wound up going to District 88 schools, Roosevelt Elementary School, where we were outnumbered, I would say 25-1, blacks to whites. It was very unusual. It was a few blacks there, and every day we had to deal with being chased home from school. People calling the N-word as we ran home from school every day. It was a trying times. The bigger kids would definitely chase us home. So living as a kid in BELLWOOD in the 70s was very tough. But I want to say thank you to Maywood, because I got to give shouts to Maywood, because I always do, because moving to 22nd and Randolph, which everybody in this congregation knows that Maywood starts at 21st, BELLWOOD starts at 22nd. So I am one of the luckiest people in the world because even though BELLWOOD was all white at that time, or mostly white, I was able to take 3 steps and walk into Maywood and hang out with people that look like me. Right? So I'm thankful for that. So actually I went to junior high school in 1975 to Roosevelt Junior High School. And once again, I'm going to tell you, and I tell everybody this because I'm honest. I'm similar to Malcolm X because I was bad as I could be in school. I terrorized the teachers. I terrorized the other students. I was a bully. I just didn't act right, and it probably was because I was rebelling from the situation that I was in, that I was putting in. So as I'm being bad in school, the white teachers and the white administrators, they didn't want me to be there. So they labeled me as a dysfunctioning child. They would call my parents and say, we don't know if your kids should be here. But it didn't stop me. It didn't deter me from acting up and clowning in class, and that's what I did. But one day, man, God knows what he's doing all the time. Because one day I walk around the corner, and there was a new science teacher in the school. And he stood 7 feet tall. And I bumped into him, and he knew all about me already. And his name was Ron Dunlap. He was the first African-American teacher at Roosevelt School. He was my science teacher and my track coach. And he stopped me dead in my tracks, and he said, son, you can be better than what you're doing here at this school. He said, you can be anything you want to be. He put his arms around me and he showed me love. And he said, I care about you. And I'm going to make sure you succeed. Because these white people here in this school, they don't want you here. They don't want you here. So sit down, calm down, and we're going to get through this together. And he was the first man male figure other than my father and my grandfather that actually showed interest in me, that actually cared about me. So from that day forth, he was my track coach, and I told him that I would make sure that I did a good job, and I worked real hard for Mr. Ron Dunlap to do a good job. 1977, I wound up graduating from Roosevelt School. I made it. Now, most people that go to Second Baptist Church, the old timers, might know about this. When you graduate from any grade school, you can't wait to get to Proviso East High School. You can't wait to be a pirate. Right? That's all I live for, to be a pirate. Everybody that I played with in Maywood, Bosco Park was one of my hangouts. 10th Park was another hangout. Everybody I played with went to Proviso East High School. Couldn't wait to get there. My sister was 3 years older than me. She was at Proviso East High School. We graduate, and they tell us they changed the boundaries. Now they changed the boundaries to 25th. If you live 25th, it was 25th. They changed the boundaries to 21st. So if you live on 21st, you go to Proviso East. If you live on 22nd and West, you go to Proviso West. So I was in that first group that was bused to Proviso West, and the first African-American kids truly bused to Proviso West. And I went, but I went kicking because I wanted to be a pirate so bad. So another culture shock to go to Proviso West High School, where now we're outnumbered 50-1 ratio, African Americans to whites and others. And it was a culture shock, and it was very trying because once again we fought every day. One good thing about it is all the black kids stuck together. We was gonna make sure we took care of each other if we didn't do nothing else. So we stuck together and we fought every day. But now I was an athlete, so I played football, and this is where I get my first dose of politics. I never knew what politics really was until I joined the football team. Because when you're on the football team, they don't care if you're white or black, if you can run that ball. They don't care. So before I would hit an N-word and the kids would want to fight, but now that I play football, and I was the first black quarterback at Proviso West High School, which was kind of a problem within itself, because a lot of them white families and white kids didn't want to see a black in a leadership role over their kids. But I was put in a leadership role at a young age, and one thing about those fights now, when those other white kids wanted to fight, I had 25, 35 football players that didn't look like me that say, no, he with us. So that was my first experience with politics, to see how politics really work. Also, when I got to high school, was my first experience with the BELLWOOD Police Department. Wasn't nothing nice. So back then, I used to be one of those guys that danced in the street, carried one of them big radios, wore braids in my hair, had earrings in my ears, just making a bunch of noise, and the old folks see you coming and be like, here come them bad kids again. Well, I was standing on the corner, and the BELLWOOD police pulled up, and I'm listening to my radio, and I'm dancing, and they say, you have to get off the corner. I say, but I live on this corner. They say, we come back around and you still in this corner, we got some business for you. They came back around, I was still on the corner, they arrested me. 14 years old, handcuffed, thrown in the back of the squad car, called the N-word from 22nd and Randolph all the way to the police department, yanked out of the car, taken into the police department, continued to be called the N-word. It was demeaning, thrown on the ground, and the police said, we'll call your parents when we want to call your parents. So finally, after about an hour, my mother and father showed up, and I told them my story about how I was treated bad with the police department. And the thing that hurt me the most, not that I was handcuffed, not that I was kicked, not that I was called the N-words, but when I told my parents, the look on their face, because they knew they couldn't do anything about it. Nothing. They were helpless because no one would listen to them at the BELLWOOD Police Department at all. So they had to, it was a hard lesson for me, and they had to teach me that sometimes, you know, you got to pick your battles, and this was a pretty much a no-win situation at the time. So I'm going to fast forward, because I know I'm on a time schedule and I can talk. One thing I can do as a man is I can talk. Hey, I learned that from being a class clown and being in school. I can talk. So I then graduated from high school. I went to the Army, stayed 3 years in the military, came back home, and I got me one of them good jobs. One of them jobs that got my father to move to BELLWOOD and got a lot of Maywoodians and BELLWOODians to live in our communities. Anybody know what that job is? I know you don't. But when I tell you, you're going to be like, oh, yeah, I thought that was it anyway. I got a job at the United States Postal Service. Yeah, everybody know that, right? There's many people that work at the post office. So, you know, as black people, we get a job at the post office, we done arrived. I had it made. I done arrived. I ain't going nowhere. I ain't doing nothing. Where else can you go and work for 3 hours and get paid for 8 and 10 hours and sometimes 12? All right? So I had it made. So until one morning, a cousin of mine came over and said, hey, the BELLWOOD Fire Department is testing for firefighters. I said, I don't want to do that. I'm good. I'm good. But I went anyway because as we talk about, God has a purpose and God has a job for everybody. So I wound up taking the fire department test in the village of BELLWOOD, walked in there with earrings in my ear, half a jerry curl, half a beard, I don't know, just looking bad. And the white people in there looked at me like, we know you never going to get hired here at the village of BELLWOOD, not here. But fortunately, I tested, I came out #1 on the list, and I was ready to talk about taking the job, but everybody I talked about at the post office say, you got to be crazy to go and work at the BELLWOOD Fire Department with all them white people because they're going to set you up for failure, trust me. So instead, I just wound up taking the fire department test for the village of Maywood. Came out #1 on the village of Maywood's fire department list. I had a lot of friends, people that you might know, Marvin Cox and Leighton Scott and you know, Alvin Harvey, who has the same name as my dad, but he was a Maywood firefighter at the time. And I had my heart set on going to Maywood because we as black people are comfortable with the people we know. So why not go to Maywood and be with the people I know and I'm comfortable with? So I get a call from someone else you may know, Commissioner, Maywood Police and Fire Commissioner Al McKenna called me, and he said, congratulations, Mr. Harvey, we want to hire you to be a Maywood firefighter. I said, that sounds real good. I'm ready to come right now. But Mr. McKenna, I attribute my success to him as well as a black man. He told me, I'm offering you the job, but I'm not going to give it to you. I say, why not? That's why I want to be. He said, because now you need to be in BELLWOOD. You need to be a pioneer in your own community. You need to go and be the first over there. And when we send you over there, if they treat you bad, just let us know. And we'll hire you in the village of Maywood on the spot. So I went to BELLWOOD, became the first black firefighter in the village of BELLWOOD, and another culture shock. Because as soon as I stepped to the door, people tell me that, oh, the fire chief said over his dead body would have ever worked in the fire department in BELLWOOD. And I'm thinking, man, what I got myself into? This might not be nothing nice. Well, the people that I was replacing, when I went to get sworn in as a firefighter, wouldn't even shake my hand. So now I'm the only black firefighter in the village of BELLWOOD, and on a daily basis, I heard the N-word. We would be driving down the street in a fire engine and somebody would say, hey, them N's don't hear the sirens, they won't move out the way. And once again, I tell you, God puts everybody in the right place because I was tough as nails back then. I'd have been through a lot of stuff through grade school and high school that I knew how to deal with this situation. And as I tell you, I'm built on history. So I'm kind of smart. I know I don't look it, but I'm kind of smart. So what I did is I say, I remember Malcolm, I remember Martin. So I say, how can I deal with the situation I'm in. So I went out and bought me a black hoodie. I got me the autobiography of Malcolm X. And I sat in the corner and I just wouldn't talk and would read. And everybody would come say, "You okay?" "I'm okay." "Are you okay?" And then they would say, "Well, you antisocial, or you this, or you that." I said, "I'm here to do a job, and I'm gonna do the best job I can." I actually went back to I went back to college, got an associate's degree, went back to college, got my bachelor's degree in management, went back to continue to go to college, and I would work all night, 24 hours, and people would come down and say, "What are you working so hard for?" And I would just think, for my people, for being a better person, for showing that I can succeed. So I went and got a master's degree because I wanted to always be prepared. And that's what the black men in my life and women taught me. Always be prepared because you don't know what's coming next. So then I worked 8 years, and I heard this today. Actually, somebody said, "You never know who's watching you, so do what you're supposed to do." So the mayor of the village of Bellwood at the time, his name was Don Lee, and he called me up to the office. I'm shaking because I've never been to no mayor's office. What I'm going up there for? So he sat me down. He says, "We've been watching you from afar, and we want you to be the fire chief for the village of Bellwood." 8 years on the job. And I said, "I don't want to be the fire chief for the village of Bellwood. I just want to be a firefighter and be left alone." And he told me something that was wise. He said, "Okay, you can walk out the door, but when the door closes, it may never open for you again. So you really go home and think about it." So I thought about it, and I took the job. I became the first black fire chief in the village of Bellwood in 1996. Once again, another culture shock, because now I'm 8 years on the job, I'm 32 years old, and everybody that I have to supervise is white, with 20 years or more on the job, more than me. Once again, they didn't want to be led by a black person. But I was strong enough, and God put me in that spot to say, "You know what, I stayed prayed up, and I'm going to get through this." So I found out a way to lead. And I'm proud that I was able to lead and have people follow me. In 2010, I became the director of public safety in the village of Bellwood, the first black person to hold actually 2 certifications. I'm a state certified firefighter and a state certified police officer for the state of Illinois. Another tough job, another culture shock, because when I went to the police department, everybody said, "How could a firefighter run the police department?" But I say, we're gonna make it happen. And I'm proud that I changed the culture of the police department. Because back in 2010, our police, I just say it like it is. I kind of talk that young talk sometimes. Our police was off the chain. They was off the chain. If you was a black person, you had a complaint, that you would come into the station, they'd kick you out of the station. Like, "We don't take complaints from you about the police, get out of here." But I stuck through it, and I had 56 grievances filed against me as the leader of the police department my first year there. 56, because they didn't want me to lead. But I say, "Listen, I ain't going nowhere. We're gonna make our community the best community for us that it can be." So I'm proud of that. In 2016, the Mayor Pasquale at the time, called me to his office, another one of these trips to the mayor's office, and he said, "I've been watching you, and I'm going to retire soon, and I need somebody to take over for me. Would you like to be the mayor of the village of Bellwood?" At the time, I said, once again, no. I was thinking about retiring. I had already had enough years in the village of Bellwood, but something tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Hey, we done came too far to turn back and go back. We done came too far." So I decided to run for mayor in the 2017 election, and I became the first African-American mayor in the village of Bellwood in 2017. Boy, I tell you what, now I'm going to talk a little bit about my black people. I love them. I love y'all. I love us. I love us. Now, I tell you about all that culture shock that I had with the white people coming up all those years. But as soon as I get ready to run for mayor, I have even more culture shock because I get black people that didn't want me to be mayor. And I couldn't figure it out. Like, black people that don't want you to be something? I said, but I understand. And then that hurt me more than anything else that would hurt you, that your own kind would not have faith in you. So I made it a promise to myself that I'm going to be the hardest working mayor in anybody's village. And the thing that I think is unique about me, and I'm going to talk about myself, because I think I got some unique characters. You know, I think I got some bad characters too, but I got some unique ones. But what's unique about me is I was born and I was raised by two communities. I was raised by BELLWOOD and Maywood. And I am one of those people that I don't just want to be the mayor of BELLWOOD. I want to be a mayor of everybody, the people, whatever the people is. I want to bring Proviso Township together. I want to bring Maywood together. I want to bring BELLWOOD together. And some of the things I'm most proud of is bringing communities together. And I'm always going to work hard for Maywood. I'm going to work hard for BELLWOOD, Broadview, Hillside. It doesn't matter because some people don't understand. What happens in Maywood is coming to BELLWOOD. What happens in BELLWOOD, it's coming to Maywood. There ain't no gate around the communities, right? And we all is one. It's amazing that, like I tell you, I wanted to be a pirate, but I wound up being a Panther. And right now I still go to Proviso East games, Proviso West games, and I find myself wearing black. Because I don't want to go in and wear red, and then people say, hey, you a pirate. I don't want to go in and wear blue because you a pirate. So sometimes I have to wear both colors. Red pants, blue top, I don't know. But I am a community leader. I am a community mayor. And that's what I want to be remembered by. I'm going to close real quick, real soon. But there's some things I got to talk about that I'm most proud of. And what we have to do as black men is we have to lead, we have to teach, and we have to bring our kids up, and we have to have people follow us. So there's some things I'm most proud of. When I went into the fire department and became the fire chief, I said that I have to do this. I got to bring more blacks into the fire department. That's a goal of mine. So I'm happy to say that every day that I got on that fire truck or on that ambulance, I went out into the community and I recruited our people to come and take over, because if we won't be treated right, we got to be treated right by our people, right? I tell people right now, we got a lot of problems going on with the police in other communities. I say we as people, we got to police our own people. I'm crying for Maywoodians and BELLWOODians, young men and women to step up and be police in your own community. So you police your own community, because hopefully if you like your mom and daddy and you come from this community, that you would, be in a close-knit community like Maywood and BELLWOOD is, we family, and we're going to treat each other right. So the thing I'm proud of is we have now had 8 black firefighters in the village of BELLWOOD. We have firefighters that I knew, and I know their families, when they were real small kids, and I used to go into the schools and teach. And now they tell me, Mayor Harvey, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be here as a firefighter. This is not something I even thought about or dreamed of. But when I used to watch you as a firefighter, I knew I could do that. And then when I became a police officer, I'm one of those proactive police officers. So even though I wear a suit, I stand on the corner with the guys, right? Because if we don't stand on the corner and talk to them and tell them this ain't the way and there's a better way, then we not going to be able to reach them. So that's what I do. You have to treat our people, all of them, like people, because they are people. Now, black history. I still got some black history in me, so don't think I don't, because I got something special for you. This is special. As I stated, I lived on 22nd and Randolph, but I walked down Washington pretty much every day. I don't know if y'all remember this. I know this congregation remember this. I used to walk to the Lido movie theater on the weekends, right? Go over the White Way, grab me some snacks, right? put them in my pockets and gone in the Lido. In good times. I used to walk to 10th Park every day to go play basketball, to play football. And I'm going somewhere with this. Because as I would walk past Second Baptist Church, I would see a tall man with white wavy hair. Hair probably wasn't white wavy back then. But I'd see that man with white wavy hair. Reverend Wallace Wyatt Sykes. And I admired him because he always spoke to the kids. He always gave us kind word. And I'm going to tell you now, if you get out of line, he's going to give you something else too. So he wasn't afraid to give you something else at all. So that's black history. This church is black history. Second Baptist has some of the most prominent police officers, firefighters, and history makers in the village of BELLWOOD right here. And I know they was taught and brought up right here. So I'm proud to be here at Second Baptist. And I'm proud that you guys brought me in as a black man. So in closing, once again, I want to thank Assistant Pastor Jeff Harris. I want to thank Second Baptist Church Congregation. I want to thank my friend Ober Barrels. I got to thank him because he made sure I got here today. And I really appreciate all that y'all doing. Make sure you enjoy this last day of Black History Month. God bless you. I'm going to let the pastor come down. He's going to do what he do. Thank you.
Thank God for Mayor HARVEY. Black History Today. He reminds us about yesteryear. I'm talking about today. Mayor HARVEY, Black History Today. He told us about a lot of things and reminded us about a lot of things that we probably had forgotten about. But we thank God for him taking time out to visit us today. There was some important information that we can pass on to our children and our grandchildren today. At this time, we're going to open up the doors of church. Might be someone want to give their life to the Lord. Accepted Christ. Again, we thank our mayor for reminding us from yesteryear to today that we can go on forward. As black men, we train our young people to be better, and we can be better. Trust in the Lord all your heart, and lean not to own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths. At this time we're going to be dismissed with the word of dismissal. The Lord bless thee and keep thee. The Lord make his face to shine upon thee and be gracious unto thee. The Lord lift his countenance upon thee and give thee peace. Let us all say amen.